Mia, thank you so much for joining us today. Super excited to have you on. For the benefit of our listeners, if you could just introduce yourself and provide some background.
Yeah, sure. So Mia Drennan, founder and group president of Glas. My background has been working in sort of financial services now for more years than I care to remember. I started Glas at the end of 2011 when I saw an opportunity to really kind of get involved with broken leveraged finance transactions and really being able to provide this kind of front office commercially focused agency service. And today the business is sort of north of 300 people in 3 continents and 7 countries, 10 offices around the world.
Can you talk a little bit more about Glas itself and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, sure. So if we go back to sort of the origins of Glas, ultimately what I identified was a niche in the market to provide independent agency services to really what was considered a back office service and was really done poorly by the banks. So, Glas effectively became known for providing, in the old school term of white glove service to clients, to lenders and so on who were invested in big, large leveraged finance transactions, many of which were going through some form of restructuring or bankruptcy situation. And really just sort of showcasing, having somebody that was commercial and proactive and who really wanted to, help drive a transaction from an administrative perspective, really helped to build our business. So, we sort of focused on that original footprint of getting involved with distressed debt effectively.
The fun stuff.
Yeah, fun stuff. And that sort of took us on a journey of really identifying, a number of other niches. And I think very sort of quickly after we started to come through that restructuring wave, it wasn't really a wave. But obviously we started to see, the US private credit funds starting to establish a footprint in Europe. And, they really like the idea of having an independent admin agent and collateral agent to really provide these kind of services. So really became, growing up with that industry and really to become the leader in that space. And then really targeting, much more of the markets protected by the banks. So it took us 9 years, for example, to become, a principal paying agent in capital markets because of the constraints put up by various, monopoly, shall we say, within that space. And now we kind of just like service any institutional debt. So, it's really become, I think, we're still independent. We're still, a significant size and, we're still true to our core values.
That's amazing. So a little bit of a personal segue here. So as a business founder, what have been some of your struggles and some of the amazing milestones that you've come across?
Yeah. Well, I guess the first thing, so when I left my last real job, which is working for the Bank of New York in the UK, I think the first thing I sort of left the bank and I didn't realise actually what it was like to actually have a brand behind you. So I think, the first thing was, and I had a business sort of in between the Bank of New York and Glas, which kind of took me on another journey, which, I won't necessarily go into right now, but it led me to really wanting to get back into being a, mainstay player in transaction services and so on. So first and foremost is how do you create a brand from scratch? And it never ceases to amaze me now. We have this amazing brand, which is a global brand now. People actually do know our name, so I never take that for granted. But
they also know your name very well. You've definitely built a great brand for yourself.
It's all about the team. But, ultimately, I think that first sort of, when we had an idea really in terms of how the hell do you start, an admin agency business in the city of London? And it really took a lot of tenacity, 400 meetings around the city of London in about 3 months, locking on lots of cool doors, getting some very bemused looks from people, as to, how the hell are you going to start this business? But finally, we got an opportunity because I didn't want to take no for an answer. And so that was the same year as the Olympics, that deal came in. So I remember getting that deal and telling all of our wannabe clients effectively that we won a transaction. And then, we literally got transaction after transaction after transaction. And got off the blocks, and a year later we got mandated on what was known as HIBU, or the Yellow Pages, Yell, £2.5 billion pounds of debt, 7
Wow.
tranches, 600 lenders of record. Across a number of fund managers, and that was kind of that moment, crown jewel moment, which kind of led us then to continue and build.
Your version of the Olympics. You won.
Yeah,
Gold
absolutely.
medal.
Definitely a David and Goliath moment. And actually, I'll tell you a little story on that, because many people know this story now. But, I remember when there's a very lovely lawyer called Chris Howard, he used to be at Linklater's, as he's now Mr. Restructuring in Sullivan Cromwell, and his partner there. And he said to me, Mia, I'm going to get you in the Yellow Pages. And I was like, yeah, that trades significant amount of money a year, 600 lenders a record. He said, no, I'm going to get you on in the Yellow Pages. So we went to pitch to Yale, and they were actually based not far from where I live, in Reading in Berkshire. And we spoke to the CFO and his team, and they said, we like the sound of it. We know that, we was up against 2 other very, very large agent banks. And he said, it's a bit like David and Goliath. He said, but we know that you guys are very hungry for the work, and we want to give you an opportunity.
Awesome.
So we brought them. The next thing they wanted to do was to do a visit on our offices, and we were in 2 London Wall building, just around the corner from where, not far from where we are today. And we had about 5 people at this time, because we kind of begged and borrowed, and we were trying to convince people to join Glas at this very, very early stages in our career. So the knock on the door. So just before the knock on the door came from the CFO, my business partner Brian said to me, he'd been building our system from scratch, really cool VBA database with really fun, all the notices and so on. And he said to me, you never guess what? I went, what? He goes, the system stopped working. Oh, no. And I was like, what? Okay, how do we fix this? Right. So he said, I don't know. So anyway, the CFO comes in, and we give him a sandwich and a cup of tea, and he hadn't met Brian yet. So it's like my little secret weapon. And Brian, to be fair, said to him, I guess you want to know how the system works, and was able to deliver an amazing presentation conversation to the team about how our system worked. They went off very happy. We fixed a piece of code, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. I can definitely relate to some of the hustle, the grind, the never stopping or taking no. I mean, we launched our loan products a couple of years ago, and it's been quite the journey. And, you think about those people who gave you that opportunity. Like, I think about our design partners and early adopters who have really just believed in us and kind of sat with us through this process where, we're finally live with users in the platform, but it's taken a while, and it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I think one of the things about it is, and I often say to people, when you start, I wish when I'd thought about this business idea, it had been about shoes and handbags, because, I always kind of go, what are my other passions in life? But, for some reason, this kind of business has been absolutely a passion, and, a pleasure to be at the helm of. As you said, Cory, there's definitely been quite a lot of ups and downs. And I think, we take every win as a celebration in our business, and that's part of our culture, as in the fact that we're still a family at Glas, regardless of the size we are. So you often, you do a lot of soul-searching if you don't win something.
Absolutely.
And I think also, people are always a challenge, right? Because no matter, we've got some fantastic people in the company, but, it's not always easy to find the right people. And I think, unfortunately, what we've learned over the years as well is that, we are a very demanding, hard place to work company. And, that's what makes us different. And that's what, we're here to serve our clients. And, we expect a lot from our people, and we try to look after our people. But, people sometimes have come out of banks and they've gone, I always used to ask them an interview question, what happens if the printer runs out of paper? This was in the very early days of Glas, when there was only about 5 of us. So, I'll phone up the IT department. And, right, that's not going to work here. You have to go to Ryman's and buy a ream of paper.
We should add that to our interview questions. But
it tells you a lot.
Getting the bank off of people.
It tells you a lot, people. So, those kind of things. But I also think, just navigating, having being spontaneous as well, and being able to seize opportunities are very positive and a great, but lots of milestones around that thing, but also dealing with regulation challenges, getting regulated. I mean, again, my business partner Brian has taken care of a lot of that stuff and has driven that forward. And, we're regulated pretty much globally now, but it's been really tough. And I think that regulation is getting tougher now. So at the time, we started this business with a few £1,000s of capital. I don't think that's replicable today.
So the industry feels like it's finally seeing some real innovation.
Yeah.
The last 20 years, I think, have been a little stagnant, but I feel like there are new loan tech companies popping up left and right. But then even specifically, I feel like every organization I speak to is really focusing on tech.
Well, put it this way, right? You in any leaders of any business has got to have a digital mindset, right? So you can't survive if you don't have some kind of digitalization program going on.
Yeah.
So, it's great to see, yourselves and a lot of other folks coming now with, different solutions for visibility on data and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think the market, things are changing. But I still think there are pockets, particularly amongst the banks. They're still a long way behind the curve, and they really need to understand what their future looks like, because they can't necessarily or don't want to invest in new tech.
Yeah. It's also hard for banks to make these decisions. Yeah.
Even to go through the process of APIs and all of that stuff. So, I feel there's a lot of work to do, but that's good because it keeps a lot of folks busy. But I think we're absolutely on the right path.
The idea that data belongs to a vendor or belongs to an organization, I think, is starting to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, look, the fact is that, when you ran what are the number one problems of, for folks, for lenders and so on, it's really, it's real-time information.
Yeah.
So, we have developed products which are giving our clients real-time information now on the loans we manage for them.
Yep.
But you transform the market, you in terms of being able to provide that. And as you say, it's somewhat behind the curve, but, hopefully with more folks taking up, your product and other market products, we're going to see more transparency on that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's not just the transparency on the data, but it's on the ownership and tasks, like who owns the next step. Yeah. One of the things that came up in the working group was, you need an admin form. It takes 3 weeks to get it because you thought you sent it, you didn't send it, you're chasing it, but the person went on vacation, and it's just, so there's a lot of that. So, having a centralized platform where you can collaborate from multiple parties and assign those things, I think, is one of the answers to that.
Let me give you a stat, and it's kind of some sort of self-interested stat here. When we started thinking about changing the way we operate, we did a survey internally about, where was the biggest pain point with our client services team, and the London inbox, the group mailbox, 1 month was getting 11,000 emails a month. Now we've now got things that now are managing that. Now that's Glass. Now we do have a big market. That's a London team. That's not the whole team.
Wow.
So if you think about some of these very large admin agents, particularly in the US with the banks, that doing God knows, how the hell, really to sift through. And a lot of that was, where's my notice? What's my position?
Yeah.
So if you can get through that noise, which we are doing with the various things that are going on, then you kind of create something that's much more manageable.
I think it's funny too, because some of these banks are looking at ways to auto filter their inbox. Yeah. It's like you could just leapfrog these solutions and go right to provide transparency. We're definitely, we're live with users in the platform now. Actually 2 admins are live, which is a unique scenario, but also amazing. And we're already seeing the situation where there's a break because there's a pay down missing, and the one party sees it, attaches the notice, the next day it's fixed. It goes from position break to perfect match. And that's day 10 of the month. That's like saving the month end breaks and all the increase in queries over that. So it's that transparency, data, seeing both sides of the data, and being able to collaborate on it as well. So it's exciting. Should we talk more about what we're doing together since we're on a couch together?
Yeah.
So, from my perspective, we're actually obviously we have mutual clients who are interested in that transparency of data as well as the communication. So, we're looking forward to onboarding some of our key clients to enable that transparency and the communication between teams.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, as I said, without naming the names, we really want to help our clients anyway. So we're very excited to kind of get that finally over the line. And I do think that part of evolution is sharing information with the market.
I actually had lunch with Lorna Fleming and Joe Brooks a few months ago, and I was like, how do you have all of these badass, am I allowed to say badass on podcast? Yes. Badass ladies at your company, and then you add NAMs to the mix who we're working with now on the IT side. It's, are you seeking out women, or are you just lucky that you get to have that mix of people?
I think part of it is obviously, starting from me and Brian at the top, really. I mean, we've always just wanted to hire the best people, and been very fortunate and lucky that, we've looked for, people that can do the job well. And, if we've sought out or found, as it's happened in our search, we found some really good people. I mean, a lot of the ladies that, and actually guys as well. So our COO, Stuart, I've known for many, many years.
Also
I've worked with the business. Yeah. Joe I'd worked with back at Citibank in the 90s, which is quite scary. When she was in ops and I was doing corporate trust. So I've known some of these people a long time, but bottom line is you really want the best talent. So it happens that a lot of women make up those numbers.
That's great. I had that at one of the buy-side shops I worked at. I was just trying to hire the best candidate, but in finance and tech, it's typically all men. And then at one point, I ended up with 4 women on my team. And it was great because we would go to an event and we'd be like, ladies, are we doing Uber or walking? Because that would determine if we put our shoes on now or around the block from the event. So we would always carry something. But no, it's just nice to mix it up. But badass is badass. So.
Exactly. But I also look at some of the science behind all of this stuff as well, because I think one of the reasons that Glass has been successful is because, again, myself and my co-founder Brian, we're very opposite people in most respects, and actually, that is what makes to a successful business. So you really need, there's a lot of discussion and publicity about diversity, but that's not new. That is, you have diversity across management, across your board, across your company. You're going to get different views and opinions from different folks, right? So if you look at a lot of clients that we deal with, principals tend to hire the same kind of people, right? Mm-hmm. And so where's the diversity? And that's why, if particularly in private equity, that is very, very few women that are, in those funds. It's very hard to get through because it's always the same. So, I think it's just the way people should be running their businesses. There's a load of, people are trying to do that now.
Yeah, agreed.
But diversity is key to success, I think.
Absolutely. And it's funny because our 2 co-founders could not be more different. I'm looking at Joe over here. But yeah, no, hopefully that is definitely, you need that balance for sure, to different points of view. You can't always have just one point of view.
Yeah.